Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we have the ENFJ live Q&A with Sandra. Would you like to tell us a bit about you?
Well, I've seen a couple of other conversations with other types, and that question of tell us about yourself, I said, what can I say about myself? I can't seem to talk about myself all by myself. I have to think of it in terms of my relationships to other people. And then I thought, what does that mean? That sounds really codependent of me. And I think, well, that's a real pitfall, I think, for dominant extroverted feeling types. But I feel like I am the person I am today because of my relationships with all of these people who are very close to me and have helped me develop functions. And also, I didn't discover the MBTI till I was over 40. And that was a huge revelation because I grew up in a family. My parents, they didn't go to high school. They came out of the Depression, and there weren't big thinkers. I mean, I lived in a real sensing house. My father was probably ISTJ and my mother ESFP. And I was always kind of accused of having big ideas. And it wasn't until I took the MBTI that I thought, oh no, it's my intuition that's giving me these big ideas. And the other thing is, I was married to an ISTJ professional who's very competent and a beautiful example of ISTJ. What can I say? And I had 4 children. And my life was the way I lived in relationship to that and the kids was ESFJ. And I was always wondering, why am I discontented? I should be so grateful. And my kids are lovely. I love my kids, but always wanting more. And that said it. And then it also helped me see it where I was in the perspective of the dynamics of the family and where I was in relationship to my ISTJ husband. So it was a big revelation. It was a big a confirmation. And I was thinking, when I was a child, there was a song on the radio called, $1 Million Baby, and is this about it was, if you go into the 5 and 10 cent store, there was $1 Million Baby in the 5 and 10 cent store. When I was a child, I thought, well, that song's about me, because I felt so different from the members of my family and then even my extended family. I think there was a lot of depression, and sometimes you're just born at the wrong time when life is very hard. And but I just felt like I felt really different from the rest of them, and I had plans. And from the age of 8, I decided my uncle brought a girlfriend home for us to meet, and she was a teenager, and she was a teacher, and she took for some reason an interest in me. And she told me where she went to college and how she traveled in Europe in the summertime because she was a teacher. And I thought, that is going to be my life. And I was age 9, and I had a plan, and I was totally dedicated to it. And it was completely different from any expectation or any thoughts that my family had for me. So that it kind of, it was so nice to get that confirmation of the way I am, the way I think is okay, and it has value.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
There was this really great temperament differentiation you made when we were talking together, and it was about how the temperaments see things in different ways. Would you like to go a little bit into that?
Oh, well, I have a couple of temperament things actually. Um, if you can drive an SP crazy by telling them they're boring, and you can tell drive an NT crazy by telling them they're incompetent, and you can drive an ST crazy by saying they're irresponsible, and you can drive an NF crazy by saying they're selfish. And that is the zinger. And if there's any suggestion of selfishness or self-centeredness, it seems like such a personal violation that this is the ultimate sin, is to be selfish. And the other thing is, since it's Love Month, it's February today. When I was in the last chat, I was chatting with an ENTJ, and he said, for relationships, the ST relationship is teammate. SP is playmate. NT is, I guess, thinkmate. And for NFs, it's soulmate.
Yeah, absolutely. Kiersey talks about that. And I believe by ST you mean SJ. So SJ.
I'm sorry, SJ, yes.
Absolutely. That is
SJ.
phenomenal.
And that was, that just described my first marriage. We were teammates. He made and this was, this was before modern times. What shall I say? It's really way back there, where there's very traditional standards and what can I say? Just it really it was necessary, I think, to be in tandem with somebody like this when you're having this big enterprise of raising a family and all of the sensing that goes into it. I look at it now saying that was my big creative opus, was raising those kids. But while I was doing it, it didn't seem creative. It seemed very daily and full of minutia, because that's how it is. And my expectation was, and we kind of had these, what I call the parallel lives. He had the professional life. He was very successful. He was brilliant and successful, and really wonderful at what he did. And my domain was the kids and our social life. And there was a way I had tremendous power there. That was where I ruled. And then he ruled in another way. And so, but anyway, more later when we get to the other functions, because I was married to him, and I loved and adored him. And I was married to him for 25 years. And then I had another husband later that I was married to for 32 years, who was an ENFP.
Amazing.
So,
fantastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, wow. And I just, and I totally love both of them for what they brought to me. But anyway, so, I mean, I guess that connects with I'm going off, but it does connect with February and Love Month, and
Yeah, very well themed for sure.
mating and relating.
I love how I asked you tell me about yourself, and you described like none of the like typical things people would describe when they say tell me about yourself. They'd probably like, people typically list off their accomplishments and stuff, but I wonder if you see it as bragging or stuff to like kind of say too many of the things that you've accomplished. And
Oh,
like,
yes. Oh, it does. No, and I have had I have had a lot of professional success. But it seems like, oh, well, I just, oh, well, and I have, I will say my life has been a series of relationships and associations with groups. And they've meant a lot to me, and they've done a lot. I've done a lot of service there, but my associations have done a lot for me. And generally speaking, whenever I'm in these associations, I do tend to get to a period, a position of leadership, but it's sort of the nature of the groups that I work with, that they tend to be nonprofit or religious or whatever. So, my type really fits.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're great at encouraging and inspiring. So you're really great in that role. And so my first question for you, Sandra, is could you tell us a bit about your functions? And I know you like John Beebe's 8-function model. So I will bring that up too.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us a bit about your hero function, extroverted feeling?
Oh, well, it's sort of like, if I'm talking about that, it's sort of like not looking in a mirror, but trying to say, describe the nose on my face. It's just what I do. I think what I do is I just keep scanning that environment and looking at individuals and looking at people or groups. And I have this great curiosity. And I just like to look at them and think, who are you? And then I think, well, what's your backstory?
That's so great. Are you that type of person in a cafe that kind of wants to infer a person's story by looking at them?
It's too. Let me get my magnifying glass because I can't see the little print.
Absolutely. Oh, you don't have to read this. This is for the viewers who don't know.
Okay. Yeah. And so I just have a lot of just basic interest in looking at people and see, well, what do we have in common, and what can we do together, and let's talk about what we hope for, what we need, and let's share that.
You're the definition of wholesome.
And I tend to look at things, particularly in my work with groups of people. I feel like there's a picture puzzle, and everybody has a piece to the puzzle, except my introverted intuition knows what the picture is. And it's like, I know the picture, and everybody has a piece, and let's all put it together.
Yeah, and that brings us to your parent function, which is introverted intuition. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. And it's just the mix of people. And, I think each person is a world. And I'm just really curious about finding out that world.
Oh, my NF heart. Oh God. And your eternal child, which is extroverted sensing. Could you illustrate that for us?
Oh gosh. Oh, I am so pleased that that's my third function. I just can't say. My mother was an ESFP, and our family was difficult, and then we also didn't have very much money, and we have very little money, as a matter of fact. We kind of scraped along. But my mother, I don't know, we could enjoy the smallest thing and relish it and celebrate little things. And and just have fun. It's like, I sort of go through life, and in my relationships with my family, it's sort of like, okay, what are we going to do for fun? Or what treat can we give ourselves? And I think my extroverted sensation is, I know how to put things together. I have a very strong aesthetic sense, and my home looks like that. I've been an art collector. I've been collecting art for 40 years. And as soon as and I like to go to auctions and find odd antique pieces, and I know how to put things together. And when people come into my home, they comment about all the art that's all around. And I think it's lovely. But I do it because I love to be in a lovely environment, something that is comfortable, peaceful, where people can move around freely and not worry about messing things up, but that to be in a place of beauty and peace. And I think that I have the ability, the aesthetic sense or sensibilities to be able to pull that off. And I know how to put things together for clothing, or I'm very interested in that. And I like to go shopping, and I like to look at everything and see how it all goes together, and I admire beautiful things. I also like to have fun, and I'm open. I just enjoy a lot of simple things.
Yeah.
It was one of the things, it was hard with my ISTJ husband to have fun because, with the kids, he would say, oh God, if they're all with us, it was really hard for him to manage all of that. And, but it was always, well, where are we going to go? Let's go on vacation. Let's take this trip. Let's, let's do things for variety's sake, and just to be out and enjoy things just for the fun of it. Doesn't have to have a purpose.
And how do you experience your anima or animus, which is your introverted thinking?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I spent 25 years with a lawyer and a law professor, and our life was a world of tea. And I enjoyed it, actually. I mean, not for me personally, but I enjoyed being in the environment. And there was a lot of really interesting conversation, a lot of tea conversation because our friends were extensions of his profession. And I liked them, and I enjoyed being with them. Again, it was sort of like the two-tiered marriage, where there are two roads. This is your road, and I'll participate in your road. But then I had my road, and he wasn't that interested in mine, but I would be interested. So it didn't. At one point, when I was looking for a career after my divorce, I considered going to law school. Instead, I went to business school for reasons that I could talk about later. But I just think that wouldn't have been right for me, and business school wasn't right for me either, but I just had to endure it. But I felt like I had been around people arguing, and I did have some acquaintance with it. I had some development with it. And I do understand it more. I do not ever want to have to argue with someone with extroverted thinking, because I will lose. I will fall apart. But as long as something makes sense to me, then I can feel secure. And I can think, oh, well, I know what this is. And sometimes when I would be with my husband, who was a very persuasive arguer, he could argue. I mean, he could argue that black was white, or white was black. I mean, and that's kind of what lawyers do in the courtroom. They're arguing, and politicians do. And but sometimes I would feel like I lost this argument. It's not that we didn't argue, but I lost my position here, and that his position won. I hate using won and lost, but I guess it's the only thing I can say. But there was another way that I thought, no, I know this is right. I know it. And that's what he thinks, but I know this is right. But the other thing is that it can be, because I think the extroverted functions are for the collective. This is what you bring forth out there. I think the introverted functions are for yourself. And at this point, I feel like my introverted thinking is an inner advisor for my life. My introverted thinking can be very critical of me, about that was stupid, you shouldn't have done that, you made a mistake, and sort of hold myself to it in a critical way. But in another way, I at least now that I am, my second husband died about 2.5 years ago, and I'm on my own now for the first time since I was 19 years old. I am on my own. Or there was a little period in between the divorce and the second. But to be on my own, and I have to be very, I don't have to be concerned financially. I don't have a lot of money, but I have enough to take care of myself. I don't have to be concerned. But I have to manage things well, and I have to make sure that I don't go overboard helping people financially. And if I lend people money, then I have to assess whether I can trust them. And usually I have them sign a little promissory note to let them know that, okay, we're on record here, and not just give away the store. And also helping me with other, medical things. And it seems like, I guess the best way I can say is the way I'm experiencing it now is my inner advisor. But when I made a transition with my first marriage, I had to figure out, I was in my 40s, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And I had to go into business school, and because I wanted to go into arts administration. And it was, oh God, I just had to survive it, and I did. So it was, it was like I had to do really a lot of work, pay a lot of attention, put in a lot of time, had a lot of frustration, because I didn't have my undergraduate. Also, even before that, because I was only 19 when I married my husband. I had a year of college, and I had to be a faculty wife, and then I had children right away. I had all these children, and then I wanted to go back to school, when I was in my 40s, and I decided that I would go back to school. And my husband thought it was just, why would I need to do that? And I just said, well, I just want to do it. And he just pointed out to me all the arguments against it, and I was doing too much. And then I said, no, I want to. And then I did the absolutely insane thing about becoming a theater major in my 40s. I just said, no, I just want to do this. And so that was my undergraduate, was in theater. And I didn't have statistics or a lot of math. I mean, my last math was in high school. It was just, so I was in the world of mathematics and statistics. And but anyway, my goal was to get a job in arts administration, which I eventually did for a couple of years.
Yeah,
So
which I'm sure.
I had to, but it was for my undergraduate, I was in my 40s, and I would take my bike and go on campus, and I loved every minute of it. I absolutely loved every minute of it, every class. I don't care. And then when I went for my master's, it was, oh boy. I mean, it was just gritting my teeth and getting through. So anyway, that was sort of the, I've had this sort of, I do appreciate what I had to go through, because there are things that I know and understand that appear in the news that I think, oh yeah, I know about that. But then I really am not interested in pursuing it.
Yeah. When you
It
mentioned,
seemed like the practical thing to do, because I was going to, find a life for myself and find a way to earn money. So there you go.
when you mentioned just needing to grit your teeth and get through it, there's a analogy you use called the cold brisk shower, and yeah, would you like to go a little bit into that?
Oh, the cold brisk shower. Well, I was thinking of, I was just thinking of my life with lawyers, and sometimes I think dominant extroverted feeling gets too hot, gets too warm. And sometimes it needs to go into introverted thinking, and just take a cool, brisk, introverted thinking shower, just to get it in balance, and not just give over to taking care of everybody and saying, yes, you can take care of everybody, but am I going to do more for you than what you do for yourself?
Yeah. And that brings us to your opposing personality, which is introverted feeling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, well, I mean, I kind of hate, I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there was a confrontation. My husband decided that there would be a professional move that was good for him, that would totally disrupt me, what I was into, because I reached a point where the kids got older, the two older ones were starting college and two in high school, that I could create my own life for myself. And I actually went into business with two friends of mine who we were, the housewives, and we did pottery for fun. And then we decided we would go into business, and we opened a shop, and we bought a huge gas kiln, and we did all that. And the three of us were in this position of having raised children, and we're looking for some sort of self-expression. So we did that. We had all that going. And then I got very involved in the church, very progressive arm of the church, very creative, with very creative liturgies, lots of social action, lots of, what shall I say, reassessing doctrinal issues, things that you don't even understand or can't follow, and to challenge that. It was a lot of that. And I got involved with doing presentations, doing storytelling, and creating liturgies, and using, I mean, I also sewed. I did a lot of sewing. That was another creative outlet. And I made a lot of my own clothes. And I would be making hangings, and then I made a set of communion goblets with my pottery, and we did pageants. We did all kinds of. That's where I got in touch with the ability of drama, because I do think all of the arts are involved in religious ritual, and storytelling and dramatizing is another part of it. And it's like I had an outlet for that there. It was so welcome. And they were younger. It was the student branch of the Catholic Church. So everybody was very liberal and progressive at that point. And there was a nun there who was another ENFJ. And we had a women's group there of the older women, middle-aged women, and we would gather with her. We had a dream group with her. And it was, I don't know, I just felt like this was a chance for me to be explicitly creative. And that's why I wanted to go back to school and finish, pick up the other 3 years. And then I decided, it seemed like such folly to join the drama department, but I did. But I knew I was friendly with people who taught the department, so it made sense to me. But anyway, my husband felt he needed to make this career move and move us out of this situation where my two older kids were starting school. One was at Sac State, and the other one was at Berkeley, and my two kids are in high school. And I had finally, with my pottery and my church and my going back to school, and I just said, he wanted to move us all. And I just said, no. And it caused a lot of problems that I said no, because I wasn't supposed to say no. And we went to a little bit of therapy for a while, and he wasn't terribly interested in it. And then we reached a point where I think what happened was my introverted feeling reared up and said, what about me? And I really felt that it all had been for him, and it had all been for the kids. And I just thought, I can't do this. And I just said, what about me? And it caused an explosion in the family, and I begged for therapy. And he just thought I was going through a phase and that I would come to my senses, except that I was dead serious and I had therapy for myself. And I think this is, I look on it now and I think, well, I was so angry with him. And I thought, you're just so selfish and self-centered, which is the number one sin anybody can make. and now I look at it so differently. I think he could not. And that's what, when I was in therapy, my therapist said, I said, why can't he change? Why can't he? And he just looked at me and he said, he can't. And looking at it from a type perspective or a developmental perspective, I think I was offering him an opportunity and he didn't take it. He wouldn't take it. And I was offering him a chance to develop other parts of himself. But I just decided that if I didn't do this for myself, and I just thought, well, if you want to go, you go. I'm staying. And if I didn't do this, I didn't know what would happen. I was convinced that I had to stand up for myself, and I didn't care. Let the chips fall where they may. So I sort of have this joke about it. I say, don't ever marry a teenager, because when she's 40, it will bite you in the ass. And I think that's what happened. He was a lot older, and the power balance, it's just, over time, the power kind of shifts. And that's a hard word for feeling types to use. But I was feeling my power, and I was thinking, if I don't have this, I couldn't feature continuing a marriage on the basis that we established it and what was required at the time. And I thought, there can be more here. It has to be renegotiated, It's like you'd have to get married again with under different terms. And I didn't see that would happen. So anyway, in thrusting around for what to do, I was friendly with the chair of the drama department, and he said that they're starting a new school of administration, and it's the new business school. And he said, I think you should go into arts administration, because I had worked with him on a couple of things. And I thought, gee, that'd be great. I'd love that. And I did do that for about 3 years. But and then I discovered the MBTI. And then I have to talk about my second husband, my ENFP. And he was a Carmelite priest for 25 years. And at age 50, I guess he had gone in at age 14. And that's what they did at that time. And at age 50, he decided he would have to recommit himself to it, or he would have to decide to leave. Because unfortunately, in the Catholic Church, you cannot be a priest and a family man. You have to choose. And if there ever was someone who was a devoted family man, it was him. And he had an MFA in theater. And the two of us, he went on to chaplaincy, hospital chaplaincy, and then the two of us started to work together on the MBTI, and we did workshops together. And that's that phase. But we're still on the introverted feeling, and that was the explosion. And I look back on it now and I think, God, it was a mess. And I wish that I had been able to be more I don't know, together on it, or more generous or more rational about it. But I wasn't. And I do regret the messiness, because the messiness spills over into friendships that you have. It spills over into family. I'm going to turn. It spills over into other people. My kids had to adjust. Though I had support, my older kids were very supportive of me, because I was going to college when they were going to college. So we all kind of graduated together. And I did. I mean, and I had support from friends, but it does disrupt it was just such a disruption to a settled life. And it was a nice life. I loved the way it was before he decided that it had to. So he hit something in his life and he had to move, and I hit something. And unfortunately, but I didn't look at it that rationally and calmly. I just, I sort of walk through life with army boots on. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And let's go through your other shadow functions quickly too before we start the Q&A. And so I was wondering about your experience with your witch Senex function, which is extroverted intuition.
Oh, well, I was thinking that, because I think, oh gosh, these are so in the unconscious. How do I know when I'm using them? But in going back to that time, what I started to do was find all kinds of reasons why he was a terrible person. And I think that was it. My extroverted intuition was saying, well, you're this and you're that, and you're this and you're that, and it all adds up. Where does it all add up? Into a very selfish person. And being critical of him personally. It seemed like I kind of, for a time, fell out of love with him. And I began to be so critical of him, when previously I had been so appreciative of him and admiring of him for all those things that I was critical about. So that would be one instance. Or maybe if someone, I guess that's when I run into somebody who steps on a value, or somehow that's where I can get critical and start naming all kinds of criticisms about them, I suppose.
Got it. And how do you experience your trickster function, which is, I believe, introverted sensing?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say that time, if I'm looking at it at that framework where I was, I mean, I think these things come out when you're in emotional turmoil. And that I would, for a time, I would agree to come back. And then I would leave again. I would say, okay, we'll work this out, and so on. And then it was probably, that's where double binds come in. It's like, no matter what he did on his terms, it wasn't enough. And he would try to do things in the way that he thought he should do it. And but it's like, I don't care. It's almost like whatever you do, it isn't going to be enough. But maybe you could, I'll let you hold out hope that maybe it'll be enough. And sort of pulling the rug out from under. And I know, I mean, when I think of what he went through, oh my goodness. But it's really, you know, when the BB model came out, I thought, oh, now I know what was going on. I was crazy, but I wasn't mentally ill.
Yeah. And how do you experience your demon function or daemon function, which is extroverted thinking?
I have no idea. I mean, I guess I wouldn't, my God. It's just so buried in there. How, you know, I'm looking at extroverted thinking. What does it do? It sets up organizations and structures that make things work. And so I guess if I'm in a destructive mode, I'm setting up things and destroying them. But it's very hard for me to connect with that in terms of my personal experience. It's just, I guess, too far gone. You know, maybe something, I don't know.
Yeah. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining your 8 function experience. And so, audience members, you may have been realizing that I've been having on a lot of people from the Association of Psychological Type.
Yes.
And that's because I want to raise awareness of the different kinds of places you can go to learn more about type. And so right now, there is going to be a winter conference coming up in February. And if you like Personality Hacker, Joel Markowitz and Antonia Dodge will be there, and Linda Behrens as keynote speakers. And so I just think it's a wonderful event, and that you should go check it out if you're free then too, because it's nice to bridge different type worlds, and so that the communities are intermingling and talking with one another. All right. And so the first question in the Q&A is from Amy, and they ask, if you were able to change 1 or 2 things about society, humanity today, what would you pick? Theory is ENFJs are most capable to influence large groups of people. Do you resonate at all with that?
I'm reading it, tiny prints. One of the things about societies, humanity today, what would you pick? What I would say is, I think the biggest sin is poverty. Poverty destroys people's lives, their health, their physical health, their mental health, their opportunities in order to be whole people. And it's so destructive. And when I am for all these political things of a basic income, and I'm pro-choice, and it's because of that. If you wanted to say one evil in the world is poverty, because poverty robs people of their lives, and that I would say I would like to change that. And I am for a lot of social programs and social action, and that's something that I'm active in my church. And I think it's I mean, when you look around at tents that are out on the street, you think, how can you allow this, that human beings are in this situation? This is wrong. But even, you know, poor people, they don't even, you know, there's the lack of prenatal care. And then there's, you know, just go down the list. And actually, if there are people who escape it, but if you're born into poverty, there's a 90% chance that you're going to stay there. That's my soapbox.
That's yes, power to the people.
I have a soapbox.
Yeah, I love you on your soapbox. And so Denzel, a fellow ENFJ, asks, how would you describe ENFJs at their worst, the average ENFJ, and an ENFJ at their best, most developed?
Oh, ENFJ is at their worst. And I have been at my worst, you know, and with all the codependency and thinking you're going to be the savior, or, you know, you're so that's at the worst, and not having boundaries. Average, I think ENFJs do pretty well, actually. They really, I mean, I really, I mean, I have an ENFJ daughter, and I have an ENFJ granddaughter, and they're just so good. They're just so sensitive and kind and aware. They're just aware all the time of what they can do for people. And at their most developed, I guess, you know, well, it's the BB spine, you know, where you take the cold shower. Your dominant extroverted feeling has to take a cold tea shower and know, you know, and really get clear about what is the way to be most effective in your relationships with people. And it's not always taking care of them. It's letting them take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Sandra, what do you love about being an ENFJ?
Oh, what do I love about it? Well, it's just, I mean, it is who I am. And that's what I get. I mean, this is what you get. This is who I am. And I like being an ENFJ, actually. I like the interactions with people, and I really like, I'm so appreciative of my introverted intuition, and it's really the source of my creativity. And it's sort of the wellspring. And I love, I'm a great, you know, I mean, I was a theater major, and I'm intense. We were on sabbatical, and it's one of the benefits of being in academia. And we were in England, and in 6 months I saw 36 plays, and that's what got me into drama. But I love, I mean, I go to the movies at least once a week. I see everything. I have season tickets to all the theaters. And because my second husband and I, you know, with both that background, we looked at everything. And I love pondering that and getting to what is the truth of that play? What is the truth of that meeting? What that movie? What does it mean? What does it ring true? What does it tell me about the human condition, and so on? And it's just, I get a lot of enjoyment of that. And then I just like having fun. I'm always, you know, calling friends and say, well, let's go have fun. Let's go do something. Let's go out for lunch. Let's go eat something really nice. And can we take a ride just down to the wine country and look at the, you know, and look at the blossoming trees? And what treat are we going to have for ourselves? And I think, my T isn't too bad. My thinking function, I've had a lot of practice with it, so I'm not uncomfortable with it. I really, what I really like about T, and I really like it when I'm able to do this, is I like it when T makes distinctions. And when I can look at a situation or argument or read an article, and I'm able to make T distinctions, I think, oh, that was really good. You did good.
Scenario: you have a deadline to make a decision. Everyone involved is not happy with what's been decided. What do you do? How would you approach making a decision by the deadline?
Yeah. Well, what I would do is I would make the decision, and the decision that I had to make. And then I would acknowledge all the feelings of all the people involved. And then I would do my best to say, this was my rationale for it. And this is where I was coming from. But I think it's really important to acknowledge people's difficulties and disappointments, and to let them know that you recognized it and you took it under consideration. And sometimes that's how life is.
Got it. And so I am looking for questions. Sandra, if you could give advice to younger ENFJs, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would tell them, first find out who you are, really. I mean, down to the nitty gritty. A lot of what you like before you start giving yourself away. And well, it's based on my own experience, that don't do that. Yeah, that watch out for that, and really know where you're coming from, really know what you like, what's important to you, and know what your bottom line is. And before you get in situations where you're forced, or you feel obligated to give it away. And it's not like you don't have to make concessions. It just is the way it is. But just, you have to be aware that it is a concession. It is. And then just say, can you live with it?
Mm-hmm. And can you explain your type journey and how you knew that ENFJ is your best fit type?
Well, I was in my 40s, and I took it, and it was, yikes, this is real, this is true. And then, sort of testing myself, I don't know, I didn't have a lot of difficulty, but what I do, and what I do understand, is that I'm not, I mean, I may come across as very, I'm not that extroverted. I may come across that way because I'm disclosing here. But I'm, on the expanded analysis, I'm what is known as an intimate extrovert. And I have a daughter who's an ENFP, and I really know the difference. And when we travel together, she's always connecting with other people who are traveling, and I tend not to do that. If they're brought in, then I do, but I don't seek it. And when I'm in groups, I don't start connecting right away. My first take is always to get the lay of the land and figure out what's going on and who are these people and where they come from and the politics of it. And just a little assessment before I dive in. And then it's usually just on a one-on-one, and then it kind of moves out for that. And then I start feeling really comfortable.
Mm.
So in that sense. So and and my daughter, my ENFJ daughter, my granddaughter and my ENFP daughter, they're all, I can tell the difference. I'm reserved. And I think it probably comes from my family background, is that I tend to be a little more cautious and reserved than my kids are. By the way, I have an INFP son and an INTJ son. It's NF land when we get together. It's a lot of fun.
I like the word intimate extrovert. That is fascinating. What are your biggest struggles cognitive function wise?
My biggest struggle function wise, I don't know. I don't know. I think I can tend to be, and maybe this is in the extroverted intuition. It's more in the unconscious, having these unconscious criticism of a failure of hope because things are so difficult, and a failure of hope for my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And that I can't let that take over, or it's all over. Yeah. And I mean, I read the New York. I mean, I get the New York Times every Sunday, and it takes me all week to read it. But so I'm very aware of what all the difficulties, the political, environmental, everything, and sometimes that extroverted intuition is just seeing how there's this bad thing and that connected to that bad thing, and that it's hopeless. It's really the downside of it, mm-hmm. of extroverted intuition, I suppose.
Mm. My mom is an ENFJ. How can I show her that I appreciate her ENFJ-ness? Anything I can say or do to make an ENFJ feel loved?
Oh, well, it's not by saying it. I have a thing about compliments. And I kind of, when when I'll do a workshop and I have these groups, particularly women's groups, because I'm very much for women's spirituality and feminism and, all of this. And I'll come in and I'll do something. And I know that I can make an impact, but yet I think, oh, that wasn't that much. But if someone comes to me, I've had people just come to me and with such gratitude, and my first reaction is to step back. And I think, oh, it wasn't that great. So praise, no. I don't like hearing, oh, you were great, you were wonderful. Or what I would prefer to hear is, I heard this, and this is how I related to it. then I think, oh, okay. I don't like praise and I don't like compliments. I'll just say that. I just kind of, I don't know how to react to that. I mean, I know to say thank you, and I say thank you because that's the polite thing to do. I don't like that kind. I prefer when someone does something. That's what I do to show appreciation for someone is I will send a card or find a little thing and then put a note and say, this represents something. Or I mean, that's how I show appreciation. It's I find something, some symbolic thing, and just let someone know you're important to me without praising them. I have a thing about that, but it may be just my psychology. I don't know if all ENFJs are like this. But I do feel like I have found myself. I was thinking that a couple of times ago. I have this other group of church ladies. We meet once a month, and we're concerned with a lot of social issues and so on that coming out of our church and so on and so forth. We're kind of little warriors, and we all get there. And I found these mugs. They're nice. They're at TJ Maxx. They're not round. They're slab, and they're a little uneven, and they're big, and they hold nicely. They hold a lot, but they have a word on them. And I have a collection of them with grace, discipline, dreamer, and so on. And I started to find them for our. We get together once a month on a Sunday morning, and we said, well, what should our name be? And of course, my name for them is the church ladies. I'm thinking of Dana Carvey and the church ladies. I think it's really funny. But I don't think they would like that name, so I didn't suggest it. But I call them. But I found I had to go to I don't know how many TJ Maxx's and Marshall stores to find the right mug with the right word on it. And I gave each of them a separate one for our Christmas thing. And someone is in the choir, and there's an amen thing they sing, and I found one that said amen. And then another woman had just been jilted by her boyfriend, and I found one that said just breathe. And when we left, I gave everybody their mug with some candy. And that's how I say thank you to them. I don't say to them, oh, I think you're great and I just love being with you. It's just, I just want to do it in a way that says, I know something about you. And this is it. And it means more than words. But, I don't know if others feel that way. That could just be me. There is this thing that all ENFJs are like any ENFJ is like all ENFJs, but no ENFJ is just like another ENFJ. Everybody's a world. You don't know, everyone has the wound. Everyone has their backstory. Everyone has something. And you don't know what that is. And also, you never know what people are going to do. You can't. People will do things you think, wow, she'd never do that. But it's sort of just have to understand that about people. But that's what makes them interesting, really.
Yeah, and that's an NI concept you keep returning back to. Everyone's a world. Like I've heard you over and over again. That's the main way that you kind of funnel the concepts into everyone's a world, which is really, really cool.
Yes. It's sort of, and then if you can enter the world, wow, what's your world like?
Yeah. I like to call everyone their own universe. So when you meet someone, you're meeting another universe.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Do you like to take charge in conversations or allow others to express themselves also?
I like to take charge. After I assess. Well, the way I do, there's a time when I come in and take charge. And I'm with another women's group that does women's spirituality, and we have speakers come, and we have food, and we're still doing it on Zoom. And I'm on the planning committee. See, whenever I'm with a group, I do find myself to be on the planning committee or something. And mostly when we plan, I do listen. Everything gets tossed out. And then after a time, my introverted intuition says, this is it. This is the theme. And I know all the parts that go with it. And, but it doesn't, if they don't like it, it's all right. But I do come in, and that is a way of taking charge. Not just coming in and taking charge. It's that. This is the summing up. This is the essence of what you're trying to accomplish. This is it. This is it. And I don't like it when people tamper with it. Let's see. It irritates the daylights out of me. I think I've come up with it. Don't you know that this is it. This is really good. but I mean, that's the way it goes in groups. I mean, and when I come up with this wonderful thing that is everything, and then someone starts tinkering with it, I just, oh God.
As an FE Dom, I love that. You're a master storyteller, A+ stories. So as an FE Dom, what is your experience with TI Doms? Has their perceived disregard of feelings ever led to an overly negative opinion of their intentions?
Let's see. FE Dom, what is your experience? I have, I feel sometimes with dominant extroverted thinking sort of bulldozed. And I don't have a problem if it's an auxiliary. When it's dominant, it seems like, particularly when it's NT, because that N knows. And when you put N with T, see, and I think when you put N with J, that NJ knows. And I think it's really powerful when you have dominant when we have introverted intuition and dominant thinking, then they know, and that's it. And it's very hard to crack it. I feel like I don't have the skills to crack it. But when it's auxiliary, it's not as hard to crack. And when NT, like NT or ST, with introverted thinking, I appreciate that. I think INTPs, there's a lot of sensitivity there. There's a lot of vulnerability. That's all I can say. And that I have found it easy to communicate. I have much more ease in communication. when the thinking is introverted. But that extroverted thinking is, I feel like I don't have the skills. I haven't got myself together enough to be able to respond to it in a way to overcome that certainty that comes across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about with INTPs? Because I know you have experience with them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you deal with their overly straightforward way of talking sometimes? Maybe saying something that could offend someone, possibly.
It's
totally okay. Yeah. There might be audio issues too, so maybe we can go to the next question as well. Yeah. And so, hi, Sandra and Joyce, Paul says, are there any fictional characters you feel are likely ENFJs? Did any of them really resonate with you personally, as in, whoa, that person is so like me?
Fictional characters. I'm always analyzing in theater or movies. I think it's very hard to get a full type. I think in movies, or I can't say that. I read a lot, but I don't. I just finished William, and it was a woman. What's her name? It's escaped me. Yeah, it was on the New York Times 100 best books last year. And it'll come to me. I felt like I could just get into her skin because it was her first husband, and her second husband had just died. And her first husband was an academic, and he was very into himself, let's just say that. And he was in crisis, and how she went on a sort of a little road trip with him to find his roots. And I thought, I liked it that she was so kind to him and understanding, and yet felt distanced from his problem, like to recognize that he was having this problem and that she was just there as a facilitator. And just her love and care and concern for him. And I thought, I loved that about that character, and I would love to be like that.
Mm-hmm. There's a ENFJ character in Demon Slayer, Tanjiro too, if you want to check that out.
I don't know that.
It's a very anime-esque example.
I know about anime because my 15-year-old granddaughter is into it, but it doesn't. Yeah, I don't. Listen, just take into account my age. I'm lucky I can run the computer. I'm lucky I just here and with my wits about me, actually.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. Yeah. And so the next question is, so for this question, instead of teammate, I think what they mean is soulmate. So teammate, I believe, is the SJs. They're teammates. So what the question really is probably trying to get at is soulmate instead. So we're just going to swap out that word. And so since you have a soulmate kind of view regarding romantic relationships, do you have a similar view towards friendships, or is there a big difference between friendships and romantic relationships?
Well, romantic relationships, they are different than friendships, but I have friends who are I have complete trust in, And when we're together, we talk about things that are really important and meaningful, and we support each other. And I have that level of friendship with some people where I just have the trust and the interest in them and what they have to say, and the just enjoyment of being with them. But the fact that we're on the same page and we understand each other and just have this acceptance. I'm fortunate to have that with a few friends. I mean, not everybody is at that level. There are some that are at that level, and then there are some that are kind of at a slightly lower level that I feel very close to. And I don't have too many, I don't seek acquaintances. It's okay. But I tend to gravitate to people that I feel a strong connection with, but they don't have the same level of intimacy but for me, friendship and romantic relationships are it's different quality.
Mm. Hey ladies, Sandra, can you relate to Linda Barron's in charge energy? If so, how does that play a role in your life? Have you ever learned Linda Barron's interaction styles?
Yes.
Yeah, so the audience members who don't know about that, so I have a video on the in charge interaction style that I'll link below after this interview too. And basically it's this go-getter mentality where ENFJs are actually a little bit more assertive than people would give them credit for, and a little bit more take charge C. And so, Sandra, would you like to go a little bit into your experience with that interaction style?
Yeah, no, I recognize it. And but it'll kind of depend on the group. There have been some groups where the reason the group exists is me. It's my vision, what we're going to accomplish, and then I have people who want to do that too. Then if I join a group, the group is, and I have done this because whatever their goal was important to me. Then I don't assume that. I think, well, somebody else has already put that together, and it's not my role here. But if there's an absence of that kind of leadership, I will step in. But I'm hesitant to do that. But I have, well, let's just say I have initiated several groups where I am in charge, and I love being in charge.
Paul says, wow, Sandra, you're weaving such a beautiful story of self-discovery and empowerment. I'm delightfully surprised of how much you moved me. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And the next question is from Antoinette, a fellow ENFJ, and she says, Sandra, how do you end relationships as an ENFJ? We often hear about the INFJ door slam and the ENFJ ultimatum. Thoughts? How do you end?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, early in my life, I just dropped people. It's like, well, this is the immaturity. It's like turning over too much to someone else and then going along, and then that's the last straw. And then you just walk out. And you don't say anything. I mean, this is a really terrible thing to do. And I've done it. And I was young and immature. And I do think, at least with my first husband, we sort of fought it out. I mean, it was messy, but it was all, and then eventually it's the court of law that kind of settles it. But I don't like that. I just wish I had been able to, but I was not in control enough to end something in a more reasonable, humane way. But, on the other hand, maybe the other person wouldn't have been able to hear if I had been sensible or logical or sensitive, emotionally sensitive enough to even hear it. So that's tricky. Ooh, when I mean, I just think, God, personally, what a failure when for someone with my type, when the relationship is broken, it's sort of, oh gosh, broken relationship. And was I part of that? Just, it's very hard on the conscience.
Yeah, you tend to shoulder on a lot of responsibility or blame yourself maybe for relationships failing, or like trying to put more on you sometimes. Would you say that that's correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you come to find SacAPT? What led to it all? So what brought you to it?
Well, there was a group, Ann Schaefer knew about these associations, and she just called a bunch of people, and we all got together and we decided that we would take different functions and we'd start the chapter. And so that's what we did. And in its heyday, it had almost 100 people. But that was, that was the time there wasn't competition from other assessments. And companies had HR departments with training. The state did, city governments, and there was a lot going on in Sacramento, a lot of outlets for working with the MBTI and organizations. And I don't know what's happened, but I mean, I retired 15 years ago, so I'm not in line. But now it's the HR department. If there's any training, it's all done online. It's no in person.
Advice for ENFJs who are over 30 or are 30 years old. Yeah, so 30-year-old ENFJs, what would you recommend or advise yourself when you were 30?
Oh, when I was 30? Well, I don't know. I guess it's just, when I was, that was a really good age for me, because that's when we moved into academia, and and I had all my children. I turned off the spigot, and that was a good time. And I can't. It would depend on the circumstances. I don't think I can give. I can't give any advice. I'm sorry.
How should you be a good friend to an ENFJ, to the extent that this can be reduced down to functions? So how can someone be a good friend to you?
Oh. Well, spend time with me and, explore, just share experiences, listen to me, not tell me what to do. but just listen and maybe share something that may resonate with what I'm talking about. I guess I have to feel like someone appreciates me, that someone enjoys my company. And if they act that way and listen and we talk and we kind of laugh about a lot of stuff. I do enjoy being with people that we can laugh at. Actually, those are my closest friends. That there's a lot of laughing. You know, and my kids appreciate me. I have to say, and that's the most important thing, that I feel appreciated, and that they like being with me. I guess if I feel like you like being with me, appreciate me, and have fun, and that would be a way of being a good friend. Mm-hmm. I guess it does boil down to appreciation. I think, because I mean, we really do give out a lot. I just have to say, we really do give out a lot. So for heaven's sakes, you know, show a little appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5 love languages can be reduced down to they're all appreciation and attentiveness languages too. So if you want to get to someone, show them appreciation and attentiveness. So the next question is, are there any historical figures, real or fictional, who inspire you?
Oh, I can tell you, because I'm on a thing now. I am on, because of my film stuff. It's Guillermo del Toro is the director, and he is the director and of Pan's Labyrinth, and the movie, but with the Shape of Water, with the monster, and he's just done this. He's just done the Nightmare Alley. I heard him. I have been a fan of his for years, and I have some DVDs of his films that are from Mexico, and I love it. I love his movies because they're full of archetypes, and I've heard him speak a few times. He was just on Terry Gross, and I just was so thrilled he was on. But he's from Mexico, and he talks about growing up and how he had this Mexican, ultra-religious Mexican grandmother who saw devils behind every bush and was so worried about him. And he had a lot of fear growing up. But he said one time that the only way we can apprehend, and he used the word apprehend, and this is why, I don't know how many years ago I heard him say this, and I never forgot it, that the only way you can actually apprehend reality, all that reality encompasses, is through myth and metaphor. And I thought that was the most wonderful thing I ever heard anybody say. And I follow his films, and that's what they all are. And I just the creativity. Well, I have a thing about creative people, and I read biographies. I have read when they come out. I read the bio. I just finished Mel Brooks. It's all about me. The one Mike Nichols biography came out. Vivian Lee, I just finished Dark Star. And Eric Idle is one of the pythons. And what's fascinating to me is I love biographies of creative people. And what turns out is there's always the wound that's the source of the creativity. And just the fact that it's not that they overcome it. It's the oddest thing. There's a way they overcome it, but the creativity, but the wound is really the source of it. But ultimately, when it's doesn't turn out well, is that the wound never leaves them. It's the oddest thing, but I absolutely love stories about creative people and their struggles and how hard it was for them and what happened early on. And when Guillermo del Toro talks about how paranoid he was as a child because of his fear, and he's taking that and he's making these movies that are just full of mystery, and I think I totally admire him. And I did see Nightmare Alley, which I think is just almost a perfect noir film. And I did see the original one, the 1947 film with Tyrone Power when I was a kid, and Turner Classic Movies had it on. And I just felt like, wow, I just hit a gold mine because I could see the black and white movie again and remember that time. And then to see Guillermo del Toro. And I guess to me, that is absolutely spiritual, really transcendent, introverted intuition that I see in him, that I just think is just it's overwhelming. I'm in awe. So anyway, was that answering historical figure? Yeah, I think he is stunning. Anything he does interests me. Anything he says interests me, because he also talks about his creative process. And so anyway, I feel really, that's any movie or theater or anything is like, that is what I think is there for me. I think that's like going to church, because I want to enter that world. I want to enter that world and understand it and hold on to something that's inevitable, but I can hold on to it.
That touched my NF.
Yes, I know. Yes. I just admire that so much. One of my best friends that I did workshops with, who is now deceased, is ENFJ, and we worked together so well. And again, we did things in retreat centers for women, and she would come up with the theme and the myth, the driving myth of the of the day of recollection. And then I was the one that came up with all of the support stuff and the interaction stuff. And it was just, it was so complimentary, because I would so appreciate what she came up with. And I would be with it. I would say, and that's it. Yes, that's just the thing. And then find the ways that we would act it out or ritualize it and so on. And, it was, she was, it was a big loss when she died. We did a lot. She was, actually, I would say at that time, she was my closest friend.
My condolences. NFs need other NFs. It's we're better together. And so what is the advice for ENFJs who want to become parents? What is your advice for ENFJs?
Oh, okay. The big thing with your parent, operate out of the P mode. Just be open. Be open with, children need structure. Okay. And I needed structure. It was a J house that we had. And I just said to my husband, this is a house. It's not a museum. And kids are going to be messy and they're going to make a lot of noise. But that's the way it is. And I just feel like I just had to let up on Jay because that was too much. And I also think that's a good thing because, and I really, you are who you are. That's, but I really tried to, my emphasis was on them, to give them as much personal freedom as possible and to supply them with all the materials they needed to do so that they could explore. And I think I did that. And my kids had a lot of personal freedom. And I hear now appreciation for that. Particularly now when kids are so, kids don't have the personal, they really had it. God, they could. And I think that's just stay open. Just, you have your rules that make sense so that everybody's, kind of feels like what's going on in this house is fair for everybody. And that there's order and structure and what's expected of you. But within that, that's just the framework. That's not the be all and end all. The other thing is to let it happen. And that would be my experience. That's my advice for kids.
Mm-hmm. So feel free to not answer this question if it's too personal, so you can skip if you want. But why do you go to church, and how do you feel about the future of Christianity if fewer than 50% of US citizens belong to a church?
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. I cry over it. I think that religion, there's a really, there's a shadow side to religion. And in my own Catholicism, the misogyny, the sexual repression, it is, and now it seems to be taken over by, this encroachment of the ultra-conservative. What I love about Christianity is the ritual, all of the ritual that's part of it. I like the message is, the message is that for people who are nothing and nobody, you're somebody and something. And I hate the, well, Jung hated, he had his problems with religion. He said that there's a lot of doctrines that are just a bunch of words that nobody understands. And I agree. There's rituals that are empty, and I agree. I think if you're going to do a ritual, do it meaningfully and beautifully, and then it has an impact. It's important. But I love the architecture. I love the art. I love the music. I love the ritual. I love the smells. I love the fellowship. And I think the church can be, this is where people can work for social justice through a structure, an organization that has some clout. But all the rest of it. So I've really had to come to terms with this. and I've had to question myself and say, how can I belong to a church that is so misogynist? We should all leave, but we all do the work in it. And so what I do now, I've divided myself, as I've just been faithful. And my second husband was a priest for 25 years, and we were dedicated to ritual and helping people. He was a hospital chaplain, and spirituality was just so important. All these questions, and how can you encourage and facilitate this in people? Sort of like saying grace. Just it's if you just say, people gather, if you're in a church group, everyone, and there's food, they say, oh, we better say grace. Well, if you're going to say grace, what you have to do is say, some plant and animal died so that I could eat and live. And so I better darn well feel in my heart how grateful I am for this. But when it's not attached to anything, then if it's lost that connection, and what I've done now is 1 week, because I still have allegiance to a faith community that I've been with for like 30 years. And there's Saturday service that I go to. And then Sunday I go to the Episcopals. And the Episcopals they're much more progressive, and there are women priests, and they're much more they're much more tolerant people. And that's where I'm walking both sides of the street. Both sides of the street. But I do. Oh, absolutely. I totally understand why people are turned off by religion. Religion, there's a third way with religion. You can reject that dark side of it, but there's the light, and to be able to celebrate, to separate it out and find your community where you can find meaningful ritual, meaningful fellowship, meaningful social action there. And I think there are things like that. But I totally understand. Also, I'm old, and so I don't want to just throw that out. I've been connected with it, so I'm going to hang on. I can understand why somebody younger would say, the heck with it. And I think, well, but I think there are ways to foster spirit. I'm going to be doing a workshop for BAPT on spirituality, and in next month. So that's kind of the point of it. Because people are innately spiritual from a Jungian archetype point of view, and from neurologically. And so I think it's sad when organized religion doesn't support that or be there for people. So that's God, I feel like I'm on a soapbox.
Feel free to go on. Yeah. So NFs that I interview, they typically talk about the third path, or the third way, the third option. Like, you have two of these options that are both subpar, and then there's always like the idealistic, almost catalyst dreamer who thinks about the third way, that the world could be better, and never really ever give up on that, like, in you. So it's
the third way. It's black and white. I mean, I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot of maturity. It's hard. The younger you are, the harder it is to see that, because I think there's a time in your life when it has to be kind of either or, and then you have to kind of learn enough to see, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be. But I think in order to kind of get your bearings, that's the way, your psychological bearings, you're kind of in that either or situation. But religion is so tricky. It's just, I have a lot of quarrels and arguments, but I associate with other people who feel the same way, and we support one another, and we're looking to find the third way. So there's a way that satisfies.
Amazing. And so what is your vision for an ideal culture, and how do people treat another?
Oh God. Maybe you should talk to an extroverted intuitive for that one. No. Oh God. Oh, I don't know. I guess you just get down to I guess, you go back to that first thing about poverty is the biggest sin. So it's about removing obstacles that keep people from realizing their humanity and their potential. That's the perfect world. And of course, you have all the other forces that prevent that. But I think every person is to himself, has it all there, and don't be putting obstacles in front of people. Let people develop according to their own pace and their own potential, and then you'll have world peace. What can I say? World peace through the MBTI. I don't know.
Yeah, I oftentimes see that there are like these unnecessary barriers or unnecessary things that stop people from success. It's almost like you either set someone up to succeed or you set someone up to fail. And there are some structures that just set people up systemically to be at a worse off advantage point than other people. And that is quite unfortunate. So that's devastating. It hurts my heart. I was like tearing up as you were talking.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's just, it's like, I feel like my parents were born at the wrong time. They were born at a crappy time. I mean, and don't even mention my grandparents. They made a huge sacrifice to come to the United States, and they literally just gave up their own any kind of personal and turned it over for and my parents were stuck in the Great Depression, and it's really sad. It's not none of their own fault, but the impact on them created very great difficulties for not only their own personal things, but the way they treated other people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get emotional about the ripple effects that happen that don't have to happen. So it's like, oh, if they weren't poor, then that wouldn't cause that to happen. And then they wouldn't be like that. So how would you interact with people who are not interested in the emotions of those around them? What is your inner dialogue like? Do you see purpose in work that does not include emotional group health? And so this is the last question for the Q&A today.
Okay. Oh gosh, that's a huge question. Well, in the first place, I let me just start off with, I don't like them. I don't like people who are this way. And I also think there's no convincing them if that's how they are. And all I can do is, I don't know. I mean, usually not in this kind of situation. Well, wait a minute. Let me say that. Let me think of church politics. I put myself in that situation. what I have done in that situation is call them out. And I just had to do that recently, but I did it with a group of people. I think what I do is at first I think I can't argue with you. I can't do anything, but I generally kind of mobile there. I find who else is having this difficulty and uniting with them. And that's what we did. Actually, that's a very specific thing that happened. Not too far away from this time. My goodness. How did I not think of that? And so what we did was, well, the specific situation was we have this beautiful church that is over 100 years old, and it is really beautiful. And homeless people were sleeping on the steps.
Oh.
And creating mess. And our pastor, who was decided he was going to put this great big gate up to keep everybody out. And I understand the physical problem of having people there, the sanitation problems and so on. And he put it up without any consultation. And a group of us got together and we wrote this letter to the bishop objecting to this, putting a gate up on a church, that big gates. I mean, we were just, but it's working with other people. And I just heard, and I know that, and we knew, we're savvy enough to know the bishop isn't going to reprimand him. But he will be leaving. He'll be leaving this summer to another place.
That's good.
And so when we all go to church, we do the Saturday night, and we come in and we just sort of nod to one another and smile and say, "Well, we did do something." No, I don't know. Does that answer the question? I was kind of off on that.
You totally did. Yeah. You look out for people's humanity and you try really hard to fight for it. Yeah.
Yes.
And so thank you so much, Sandra, for coming out.
And oh, God. Oh, Joyce, this is, I thought, oh, God, what am I going to say? And then, my mouth has been running the whole time. Okay.
It was your wonderfulness. It was like a wonderful.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah, and so before we leave, there is the APTI Winter Conference coming up in February. So if you're free then, feel free to check it out. Yeah, and so it's really good.
No, I did sign up.
It's a cool event. Yeah, so I'm just excited and telling everyone about it.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you for coming out and talking with me. You are a temperament expert and an expert at meeting needs. And I'm wonderful. Like, it's so wonderful to talk with you.
So, well, listen, this is, I was thinking these interviews, when I've seen some of them, I'm interested to go back again and see some more. But there is a way that people are true to type. And then there's a way that they are, well, what shall I say? They're more complex, or you can think of the function operating in a much more nuanced way that you might not have thought of before. It's at least that's kind of what I got.
Yay.
And sometimes it takes more talking about your, I think we all know the Myers-Briggs types, and we all want to say about our functions and what they do. But then when we really say, in real life, how does that work? How did that work before? And so hearing people say that It's really very interesting.
Yay, I'm glad that you like this museum of human stories.
Yeah, yeah, you do. Yes, and this is, yes, I can see why you do this. You know, at first, I you know, that these, I was surprised when I went online and I saw some of the interviews at how extensive they were. I didn't expect that. But I can see how you can sift through and how you came up with what you've distilled from it, because people have to talk a lot before you get to it. And I thought your lists were more, I don't know, there was a depth or a nuance to them, but more, you know, because there's these sort of standard lists, you know, yeah, and but there was more there, and I can see why this would be of great interest to do. And I suppose there's going to be a book in this. I would think that would be the natural outcome, the contribution.
It would. Yeah, so Sandra is referencing, I gave a talk at the Sacramento Association of Psychological Type, and it means a lot to get a compliment, especially from you, who is a seasoned speaker at many events and also a large part of Sacramento APT. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for coming to this interview, asking wonderful questions, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.